Hello, and welcome on this fine morning to Cine Design Training episode number, I forget, I don't remember. In this episode, we're going to be looking at orthographic cameras and how to use them to communicate layout and blocking in Cine Designer. So we're already in Cinema 4D, and my interface right now is probably going to look pretty different than yours because I'm working on Cine Designer R2. I know I said I dropped the release system, it's back, but for the people that are already using Cine Designer R1, technically, I kind of stopped calling it that. Build 4, I think, is what you guys are on as of recording this live right now. You'll be getting R2 for free because it's much better and I want you to be using it. So congratulations on that. So what we're going to do here is build a simple scene and then use orthographic cameras. Going to be fun. So here is a floor piece and we're going to hop into Cine Designer Alpha, which is still very rough. I admit that this is still a very rough system, but I love working in it this way. I like thinking of things in just walls that have windows and doors, and we're going to be building this plugin out to be incredibly fast and fluid so that you can model any space that you're in under 5 minutes. That's kind of the goal. Sometimes I say 1 minute. I think 5 is realistic. So let's look at something simple like this wall. So I'm going to make this a little bit longer. Yeah. And then let's make another one. I'm going to rotate it 90 like this. And I always mess this up about anamorphic, what are we calling this thing? Orthographic, I'm sorry. It's early in the morning. This is the time I have to record this Cine Designer training right now. As a side note, as I'm putting this little room together, running cinematography database is an increasingly challenging thing. So I'm going to try to record a lot more of these videos more regularly. It's becoming part of my schedule. But it is, there are things taking my attention away constantly. So here's our room, and let me just illustrate so you'll kind of see a little bit of what the new build looks like. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh yeah, okay, so this is a different build. Which one didn't work? What did it say? Oh, dolly track doesn't exist. Yeah, okay, I'll change that to this one. Area. Oh, okay. So those are old presets I made. So essentially, we have a lot of different things in here. And you can save the presets, but I've been changing the structure behind the scenes, so that's why this stuff isn't quite loading. Like I said, it's growing pains for the version 2. And so let's make a simple scene here. Let's line this up straight, and we'll put this dolly track there. You'll see that I have a slider on this version. And if you opened up this rig, which we're not going to get into this right now, it's not final. Things are a bit different than the version you have. They're going to be pretty cool moving forward, but I'm just going to not to take the time to explain that just yet. Just line this up on the track because all I want to show you is orthographic cameras. But I need to build a scene to do that really quickly. And it's always fun to see the workflow for people that are new, that are just tuning in right now. So I'm going to the content browser. This is stuff that does not come with Cinna Designer. It's stuff that I've collected on my own. But if you go back and watch the other YouTube videos, I'll show you how to get this stuff, how to make it for free largely. A lot of this is free stuff. You just have to spend a little bit of time and go get it. So I've done my best to try to teach you how to fish, so I don't have to just feed you this stuff. So here we have an incredibly simple scene, right? And the question for us as cinematographers, as directors that need to communicate where this is, there's a couple views, right? So we have this view, which is a top ortho view. And I'm going to turn on garage shading. So you could easily send this out, right? It's an overhead view. Everyone's very used to this. And you could figure out the dimensions, which I'm going to actually write a dimension program or plugin that makes calling out dimensions much easier. These are called elevation views, and I think these are also incredibly helpful, like this. So you can see from the side how tall everything is. I think this is incredibly powerful. So those are two great views. And then there's this perspective view, and it gets kind of tricky, like where should I put the camera that communicates where things are? I tend to end up doing something like this. And what exists for this actually is from the architects. If you go to cameras here, there's a bunch of, I said bunch crazy, of axonometric views. And there's a whole bunch of them here. And the one that we like is isometric. And you'll see that what it has done is basically made all the straight angles. We're basically perfectly 45 degrees on that vector. And then everything is at a 45 degree angle. Like this angle here is 45 degrees in there as well. So I think what's nice about this, I'm going to move this wall. What's nice about this is that if I put an object here, like for instance, I can just tell because it's along this line here that these objects are in the same line. I can tell that this person and this door are in line with each other, more or less. So like if I scooted this person through here, I would know that he had slid through there, and I would know that he would slide through there because I can line it up along these 45-degree vectors. And visually, this is very clear, a very clear way of in 3D space illustrating where things are. Because when you go back to this view, which is trippy, right? Oh, it wasn't that trippy. Sometimes it animates between them. When you do this, because of the inherent perspective in this lens, because it's like a 35 mil on like a 5D essentially, so there's a lot of distortion, which is accurate, which is what we want when we're simulating lenses. You can't necessarily tell where things are in relation to each other like that well. The distortion of the lens can make it a little bit unclear, a little bit takes a little bit more interpretation, whereas isometric, there's no perspective. You're essentially using like an infinitely long lens, like a 1 billion lens. Not that that's infinite, but infinitely far away. So there is no perspective on the set. Only everything is compressed, and you can tell from these 45-degree angles, these lines that go through the room, you can tell where things are. So layout is really strong in this format. And I would suggest trying it out. I'm not going to light this scene, but if I hit render, you'll see if you use the standard render, it's very fast. There's no lighting, of course, but just for pure blocking and layout, you don't have to texture everything and light everything. That adds time. If you're not communicating lighting and purely blocking, just stay in the standard view and just render like you can render animatics from here very quickly. So that has been our look at, I'm forgetting the name, of isometric view for the camera. You go to cameras, you go to isometric. Hopefully this is helpful for everybody. I would say experiment with it, try it out, see if it works. And really the real test isn't that it makes sense to you. The test is, does it make sense to your crew? Does it make sense to the director and the producer? So like a test would be like, make a lighting diagram with things kind of specifically blocked out and send them the isometric view and see if they can lay it out on set without you there and they get the layout correctly. If they get it wrong, it's your fault, unless there is error if they didn't do it correctly. But basically between this view, in my opinion, between a top view like this and elevation, which that one's not so useful because we can't see the camera, but there's ways of going around that. Between that view and then this view, if you send all these renderings, which should not be a fast thing, just screenshot it, export them as JPEGs, whatever, send them these renderings, these 3 views essentially, and they should be able to honestly line things up without you. And that's sort of the value of using Cine Designer and doing Cine Design as a process, is that you can send very, very detailed, explicit stuff to your crew that you would normally have to be on set pointing out where it goes because they don't understand it. They haven't seen it. They don't know what's in your head. This is a way of showing them what's in their head. You can now move on to more high-level things like talking to the director, go to the art department, deal with other departments while you can send this to your department and they can get it done for you. Usually it takes 20 years of working with a crew before they kind of understand all of your interest, like idiosyncrasies and little like words for things that are not industry that you've just made up. I know this because my crews have taken a while to learn my little craziness. This stuff, my crews love it. Maybe they're just blowing smoke up my ass, but my gaffer, they appreciate this kind of stuff immensely. So use isometric for this. You can use a perspective view if you want, but I really think isometric, very strong to send out. Of course, overhead orthos and elevation views, very important. These are the formats you should be sending to your crew. And I hope that serves you well and that your crew understands what you're looking to do and that they love you. So that is it for this episode. It's a little bit shorter than the others. Things are quite busy here, but I'm going to try to produce one of these at least a week. That's kind of my thing. I would love to put these out on Friday. This current episode, I'm just going to put it out now as soon as I'm done editing it. But I'm kind of thinking that like my main YouTube channel comes out on Monday, maybe even Wednesday. And then I guess the podcast is Wednesday, so maybe not. But then the Cine Designer Training, I have a lot of information I want to get out as far as the progress of the plugin and getting your feedback and showing some demos of possible future features so I could show them to you, tell me what you think about them. And then just to teach general 3D, of course, because there's a lot to learn about 3D. I'm constantly learning. I'm actually reaching out to other Cinema 4D YouTubers to come help us learn because they have spent years learning certain things that I don't want to have to learn, and they could probably teach it to you better than I could. And just to really, as we finish this up, this is the end, I just want to show you the beginnings of R2. Cine Designer R2. I know they all have the same icon, but I've broken these out basically into different builders. We have a camera builder, a light builder, and a grip builder. And there's going to be a lot more builders as we move forward. The film industry is big and complex. I started very small, so thank you for joining while this was a very small package. This is going to be exploding soon into much bigger things. So we have our camera truck, where you build the cameras in a very flexible way. The technocranes, everything can be built right here. The dolly accessories. I'll bring one of these in for now. I'll show you a quick demo of that. And Video Village, which is not built out yet. I have some carts and stuff. I want to be able to call out where monitors go. You may not believe me, on certain sets, calling out where the monitors go is very important. We want to know that we need power over there. You can't put certain things there. You want to build a little space for where the director is going to go. Some directors really, really, really specific about where Video Village is. Very not happy with you if you don't make them a little space. They're not the ones that want to ask the VTR, hey, can you put a monitor there? It's really nice if you can handle that. In my opinion, that's my world. Well, lighting rigs, we'll see it's more of a visual interface. It's not perfect just yet. You build your lights here, and then grip rigs. Grip rigs is essentially you can build C-stands or combo arms with 4.5-inch heads. You can put all the different flags in it, that sort of thing. It's not quite an overhead builder. You can't really build the overheads yet from this, but that's my idea, is that you want to make this stuff all interchangeable. And I want to show you something special about this new system. You see this over there. Before, you would have had to use the builder to put that in there. But what if I want to put a riser on this slider for some reason? I'm going to actually get out of perspective view. I always forget the orthographic, isometric. I have isometric view. Say I want to put this piece here. How do I do that? Well, quite simply, you take this riser here. Now, don't ignore the icons, the custom icons for this. Those aren't the finals. They're my work in progress ones. That wants to go in between the slider and the O'Connor. So I put it right there, and boom, right? Now it's up there. Let's see if this is going to work. So I clicked the slider now. You have to be a little bit careful. And then I can just start sliding. And I can also click the tripod and start doing it this way. So it's a little bit more of a clicky interface. You do have to be careful. I'll break that down later. And that's how this new system is kind of working. It's very dynamic. So at the same time, if I wanted to then say, you know what, this slider, we don't like it, the slider's now gone. So that's very powerful as far as the system. Everything is very modular. You can just bring it in, change it if you want to. Check this out. If I want to add another RJ12 riser, I can just hold control and I have 2 RJ risers. Pretty nice, right? So I'm trying to make this fluid. Everything I do is for making this faster and better. The core of Cinna Designer is putting cameras together based on real world cameras and then putting lights together. And I'm trying to make that process faster and better and eventually inclusive of every single piece of film equipment in the film industry so that you can communicate the stuff that you never thought would have been possible to communicate, like how you put your cartellinis on like a rail and how you like to have the Legos hung so that you know how it's going to work so you don't have to think about it. You can illustrate this here, use isometric, your crew will get it, they will understand it, they love to have direction. Now they're going to do their own interpretation to do the things that maybe you did wrong and fix them for you, that's their job, but at least you've done your best, your darndest to communicate your vision and your approach to cinematography. It is very appreciated by the crew, I would say. So that is it for this episode. I will see you guys on the next episode, maybe next Friday, hopefully. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.